वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासां ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमो नलिननेत्राय वेणुवाद्याविनोदिने राधादर्शुदापानशालिने वनमालिने महाभावस्वरूपास्त्वं कृष्णप्रियवरीयसि प्रेमभक्तिप्रदे देवी श्रीराधिका त्वं नमोऽस्तुते। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्तराधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरि वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। दिव्यवृन्दारण्यकल्पतमा श्रीमद्रत्नागार सिंहासनस्थौ श्रीमद् राधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेवौ पृष्ठादिभिः सेव्यमानौ स्मरामि। ईश्वरा परमा कृष्ण सच्चिदानंद विग्रह अनादिराधिर गोविंद सर्वकारणकारणम्। So reading from Brahma Samhita, chapter 5, text number 53. So as previously we have discussed about the position of different demigods and how they are empowered by the Lord for different activities in this material universal affair or universal management. Now, after explaining that, Brahmaji is explaining about how everything in this world is nothing but the manifestation of Lord's potency and how He empowers each and everything. So here he is speaking about dharma, papa, punya, whatever austerities that we perform, from Brahma up to the smallest insect in this world, how everyone is empowered by the Lord. Not only the big demigods, but each and everything. So in this text number 53, he says, Dharmot papani jayashrutayanstapansi Brahmadi ketapatagavadayascha jivaha Yaddatra matra vibhava prakata prabhava Govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. He says, I worship that original personality, Sri Govinda, whose power of endowment alone manifests the respective potencies in the principles of religious conduct, sinful activities, the Vedas, various austerities, and all living entities from Brahma down to the most insignificant insect. In the Tika of Sripad Jiva Goswami, he says, he starts with the question. He says, what remains to be said on this topic? In this world of repeated birth and death, there are so many forms of religious conduct and sinful activities, as well as all the various living beings. All of these manifest their own potencies and prowess, which are all bestowed by Bhagavan alone. Otherwise, they have not the slightest independent capacity to show their own potency. It is also stated in Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, text number 8, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. I am the source from which everything emanates, and I am also the inspiration of all things. In the purport by His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says, the principles of religious conduct, that is dharma, are those which have been prescribed in the Vedas as a proper conduct of the welfare of human society. The 20 Dharma Shastras describe Varna Dharma and Ashrama Dharma. So Varna Dharma means religious duties prescribed according to the various natures of priests and intellectuals, that is Brahmanas, warriors and administrators, that is Kshatriyas, farmers, traders and merchants, that is Vaishyas, and artisans and workers, those are Shudras. Actually, nowadays, this artisan class has become the topmost class, whom everyone think idol and they want to follow them. And that's why everywhere there is a chaos. Because if you follow the Shudras, you are not going anywhere. Further, he explains that Ashrama Dharma, he explained about Varna Dharma, now he is speaking about Ashram Dharma. Ashram Dharma means the duties that are suitable for respective spiritual orders. So spiritual orders means ashramas. Or my spiritual master, he used to say, the ashrama means the place where you can make spiritual progress. That is meant by ashram. So those living as a celibate, students, brahmacharis, householders, those are grihasthas, retired ascetics, that is vanaprasthas, and the renounced mendicant, those are sannyasis. These two forms of dharma, according to varna, the occupational category, and the ashrama, according to the status in the life, alone have been ascertained to be proper conduct of those in human form of life. If someone calls them as a human being, so these are the things that necessarily they have to follow. One is ashram dharma and one is varna dharma. So if you are a human being, then you should belong to one particular varna. And if with that you belong to one particular ashram. Because without ashrama you can't make progress. Nowadays living together system has come. That is the worst, abominable thing that one can do in his life. And those are like a papa nishchaya, that further he explains. So if someone wants to make a progress in spiritual life, after having this human form of a life, then he should follow the varna and ashrama dharma. If not, then what happens? Then that person is adharmic. So what do you mean by adharmic? Irreligion. That indicates the word papa nishchaya, refers to all the various types of sins, including ignorance, which is the root of sin, sinful desire, and the 5 heinous sins called as a mahapatakas. So what are those mahapatakas? As per the Manusmriti, these 5 sins are explained as Brahmahatya, Madhya Sevan, drinking liquor, steya, stealing, and committing adultery with the wife of one's guru, and associating with those who engage in such a great sins. So it's not that one who is performing that sin is a sinner, but who associates with the people who are performing that sins is also a sinner. So these are the mahapatakas, and if someone is engaged in that, and why that happens, it is because of the ignorance. That's the cause, root cause of all sins. If someone does not know that what is dharma and what is adharma, so he is in ignorance, and that ignorance itself causes him to perform all these serious crimes, such as murder, rape, adultery, robbery, and so on, and all other forms of illicit behavior. Actually, these are common things nowadays. People, they think they are advanced. See, they kill. Murder means everything, killing animals for their own sense gratification. Rape and adultery, that has become like a, if someone does that, they become more famous than the gentleman. And robbery, there are different forms of robberies. On the name of religion, they do robbery. And nowadays, these sophisticated digital thieves actually. Credit cards, scams, then payment scams online. So these are like a robberies. And due to the advanced age of a Kali, this thing has become common and people, they don't think them as a sin. They think that it is a part of a life. And because of that ignorance, they become more sinners. And unless and until one comes in a contact with the people who really know about what is what, till the life is like an animalistic life. And that's why Prabhupada used to say, the modern civilization is nothing but two-legged animal civilization or polished animal civilization. These are animals but two-legged and they have little polished way of committing sins. Then further, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, one should understand Shrutaya to mean the Rigveda, Samaveda, Yajurveda and Atharva Veda, along with Upanishads, which are considered the head of the body of a Shruti. Why they are called as a Shruti? Because in previous eras, all this knowledge is acquired and stored through Shruti, just by hearing. Then the further he explains that the word tapamsi refers to the many various types of difficult practices that are characteristically meant for dharma or religious progress. Any instruction have been written in the Dharma Shastras regarding such a troublesome and painful practices. Many instructions have been written in the Dharma Shastras regarding such a troublesome and painful practices. In many places, the process of 5 fires, which is called as a Panchatapa, and other great austerities and penances are described. The Eightfold Yoga process and the pursuits of impersonal spiritual realizations are included within the category of austerities. The word Jivaha refers to all the conditioned souls who are bound within this world on the wheel of fruitive activities. So the conditioned souls wander throughout 8.4 million species of life. There are so many varieties of life, such as the demigods, demons, rakshasas, human beings, nagas, kinnaras, and gandharvas. See, those are the species higher than the human life or human species actually. Like demigods, demons, nagas, kinnaras, and gandharvas, they are considered more superior than the human beings. But one thing that human beings, they have, which this other species of life, they does not possess, that is the freedom to perform devotion and to mitigate the karmic reaction. Because if you become demigod, you don't create any further karma, but you lose the credits that you have earned by whatever you have performed as a human being, as a pious credits. So only a human body which is meant to perform the karma, which gives you reactions. Then further he says, the soul takes on bodies in unlimited forms, life from Brahma down to the most insignificant insect. As the jiva wander through various species on the wheel of karma, They attain various powers that are specific to each life form. So, like carnivorous animals, they have a particular power by which they perform different activities that we can't perform. So each and every life form has its own specific power according to the karma that they have performed in previous life. Some species exhibit great strength while others possess uncommon intelligence and so on. Like a snake, if he sees once someone, he remembers throughout life. That capacity the snake has. We don't have that. So each and every form is unique in that way. And that depends upon the karma they have performed in previous life. But these specific powers are not manifest of their own accord. Sri Govinda Dev bestows his own power and prowess upon the various forms of a life, and therefore they each manifest varying degrees of Govinda's potency of prowesses. So, as Lord says in 14th chapter, the final verse, Yadyat vibhuti mat sattvam shrimat urijitameva tattad mava tejo ansha sambhava. So wherever you see the any unique characteristic, that is nothing but the spark of the splendor of their Lordship. So in that way, whatever principles that Lord has explained in the Bhagavad Gita, those are illustrated here by devotees. So Brahmaji is illustrating all those things with examples. So he has given that example like person like him or the insect, the smallest insects in this creation, all they got, all the powers is from Lord only, not from anyone else, but it's from the Lord. Then in the next verse, he more clarifies about how the law of karma works in this material world. And what is that which can cuts down this law of karma. So he says, Yastvindra Gopamathavindra Mahosvakarma Bandhanurupa Falavajanamatanoti Karmani Niradhati Kintu Cha Bhakti Bhajam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Sri Govinda impartially bestows the fruits of a reaction upon all living entities who are wandering on the path of a karma. From the insignificant Indragopa insect to Indradev, the monarch of the demigods, according to the bondage occurred from their respective individual actions. However, it is wonderful that he completely burns to the roots the karma of those who are devoted to him. I worship that original personality, Sri Govinda. When it is said in the previous verse that all the unique qualities or powers that somebody has, that everything comes from the Lord, then question might come in the mind that a person who performs sin, to perform that sin, whatever powers he needed, that also comes from the Lord then. And to clarify that further, in this verse, it is explained what exactly gives them that powers, how they get that. So Jiva Goswami Pad, in his Tika, his commentary on this particular verse, he says, as the fully independent controller of the all controllers, Bhagavan Sri Krishna does whatever he considers to be appropriate, and no one can oppose him even in the slightest way. As it is explained in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, that How Lord is a Swarat. He is totally, fully independent. He is not depending upon anyone for anything, but all they are depending upon Him. And He says that, He gives example for that. Just as a cloud gives rain impartially, He is equally disposed to all. In keeping with this principle, Sri Krishna is also impartial bestower of the fruits of action. From the tiny red Indragopa insect that appears during the rainy season up to Indra, the king of heaven, Sri Krishna bestows good and bad result upon everyone according to their good and bad activities. However, He burns down to the roots the karma, the fruits of karma, the desire for karma, and even the ignorance of His exclusively one-pointed devotees who are attentively engaged in bhakti. This favoritism that He shows to His devotees is utterly astonishing. So that question might come in our heart that for demons He kills and devotees He favors. So in Bhagavad Gita, as He says that Sammoham Sarva Bhutyoshi Name Dvesho Name Priyaha. The Lord says that He is equal to everyone and nobody is dear to Him and He is not averse to anyone. Then why this thing happens? To clarify that also, this particular verse is wonderful. Because, as example has given here, the profound implication of saying that Sri Krishna regards everyone equally like a cloud is as follows. Just as a cloud rains down in one place and not another, or rains down more in one place and less in another. And just as no one can control rainfall, similarly, although Bhagavan sees everyone equally, He is totally independent in matter of punishing or showing favor to anyone. This particular quality of Bhagavan is described in this verse beginning Yasvindra Gopam. For example, Swayam Bhagavan has said in the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, text number 29, Sammoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshosti na priyaha ye bhajanti tu mam bhaktya mayi te teshu chapyaham. I am equally disposed to all living entities. No one is my enemy and no one is my friend. However, I consider those who render service to me with devotion to be mine and I am theirs. It is also stated in Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter text number 22, Ananya Shintayanto Mam. I personally carry the necessities of my unalloyed devotees who are exclusively engaged in my service and I am always protect them. Someone may say, Bhagavan delivers His own devotees from the material existence and bestows upon them the loving service of His lotus feet. But He never does this for the non-devotees. So He must be guilty of partiality arising from attachment and aversion. So what generally the impersonal Mayavadis or Jnanis, they put forward the theory that is explained by Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Thakur. And now he is clearing that down. He says, however, such a partiality can never be found in a Bhagavan merely because He is extremely caring and affectionate to His devotees. Because He is Bhaktavatsal. Being so kind to His devotees is one of His unique characteristics. And this quality is His ornament. There is no fault or partiality on His side. Because He is Bhaktavatsala. And that is His unique quality. So further, to clarify that particular thing, he again explains that in the 8th canto, 16th chapter, and text number 14, where Aditi, when she is praying to her husband Kashyapa before Vamandev appears, there he is explaining that the Lord has one particular quality. And what is that? Tathapi bhaktam bhajate maheshwaraha. Although all living entities have come from Bhagavan and Bhagavan is equally disposed to all of them, still he shows a special favoritism to his devotees. Just as a devotee remains constantly attached to the Bhagavan, so Bhagavan also remains constantly attached to his devotees. As Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yada mam prabhajyante tam sateva bhajamyam. The way you reciprocate, he is reciprocally respondent to you. So if you are attached to him constantly, he will attach to you constantly. So Bhagavan also remains constantly attached to his devotees. Just as the devotee binds Bhagavan with the rope of prema and keeps him bound within his heart, similarly Bhagavan binds his devotee with the ropes of his sweet qualities. So in Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, 2nd chapter, 55th verse, the same thing has wonderfully explained. He says, Visrajyati rudayam nayasya sakshat harir avasad vihito api anugrahat nashaha pranaya rasayanam dhrutangri padma sabhavati bhagavat pradhanuktaha. This explanation is about the pure devotees. Why Lord is so attached to his pure devotees? What is that really attracts the Lord and binds him to his devotees? That has explained here. And those devotees are like a first class devotees. It's not that for any Tom, Dick, Harry he comes and interferes in their life. No. Unless and until you become really pure, unalloyed devotee, he never touches you. Sometimes we think, oh, what things are happening in my life, why Lord is doing to me. Lord is not doing to you. It's your karma. Jastvindra Gopa Mathavendra Maho Swakarma. It's your karma that you are suffering for. But when Lord interferes, outwardly it may be looks like a suffering, but that person is enjoying that suffering. And that's why Maharani Kunti, what she says? She prays that Vipada Shantu Shashwata. Eternally give me this Vipadas, obstacles in my life. Why? If anyone is really suffering, will he ask for that? No. But she says, Bhavatu darshanam syat abhavat punar darshanam, because whenever there are obstacles, calamities, you are there with us. So when you are in front of us, while looking at you, while looking at your beautiful, wonderful face, we forget everything. So that sort of a devotees, if are there, then he interferes in their life. Otherwise, he never touches. He said, okay, go on with your karmas, So we have to understand that. And if you understand this philosophy, you will be happy in your life at any stage. That's why you can find Yad labdha labrum chapum na banyate adhikam bhayaha. If you get that particular state of consciousness, then whatever big amount of suffering comes in your life, that will not disturb you. You will become equipoised. So this is the thing that we need to understand. And 11th canto is meant for that. It's like a further illustration of the principle those are explained in Srimad Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. Because Uddhav Gita, that comes in the 11th canto, where all these details has explained by Lord Hari. So further he says, in this particular verse, if someone calls the name of Sri Hari even accidentally, he never leaves their heart, but destroys the heaps of sin residing their hearts. One who binds Sri Hari's lotus feet in his heart with the ropes of intimate love, that is pranaya, is known as the topmost devotee. Who can tie their lordship? No one else. Only Bhakti Rajyena Baddha. He gets tied up only by the rope of devotion, and that is your love for him. And then he gives one quotation from Adi Puran. It has also been stated in the Adi Puran. Asmakam guruvo bhakta, bhaktanam guruvo vayam, mad bhakta yatra gachanti, tatra gacchami parthiva. So here Lord himself, he is explaining to Pratha, Putra, Arjun, that, O king, the devotees are my gurus, and I am their guru. I go wherever my devotees go. See, that's the glory of becoming devotee of the Lord, The controller of the whole universe, Ananta Koti Brahmahanda Nayaka, he becomes your order carrier, when you really love. And we have seen these wonderful pastimes of Braja. Why they are so glorious? Because here the Akhala Koti Brahmanda Nayaka, he follows the each and every dictation, instruction, order given by his devotees. When Nanda Maharaj says, Lala, go and get my shoes, he runs and gets the shoes of Nanda Maharaj. And how he carries them? He carries them on his hand. Can you imagine? Yat Pada Pankaja, whose lotus feet are adorned by the Ganesha on his head, which empowers him to take obstacles in our lives. He is carrying the wooden shoes of his devotee. He dances in front of the gopis for what? Handful of butter, and he carries all their orders. See, that's his Bhakta Vassalata. So don't you think he will be partial to them? Huh? Because that is his unique characteristic. That make him different from everyone else. And then further he says that this conclusion is also supported by the following statement in Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1, Canto 1, chapter 16, text number 60. Where he says, here, actually this particular verse you can understand. After hearing this verse, actually Parikshit Maharaj was like, his eyes were full of tears. Why is it so? Because this verse, it says that how their lordship, even though he is the master of the whole universes, how he carries out the orders for his own devotees. And then he counts each and everything that Lord has done for his own devotees. He says, Sarathya Prasad Parshadad Sevanam Sakya Dautya Virasananugamaanastavana Pranaman Snigdeshu Pandushu Jagat Pranitam Cha Vishnu Bhaktim Karoti Nrapratischa Charanaravinde. That's Sri Krishna, to whom all the living beings in the universe offer pranama. Jagadishwaram Ishwaram Idyavaram. He is the one who is the Jagadishwaram, and everyone is offering their pranams to him. Sura Guru, Sura Bandya Suvandya Mukunda Hari. He is the one who Vandaniya for all the demigods, in front of whom they fold their hands and offer prayers. That Sri Krishna would sometimes become a chariot driver for his dear devotees. See, can you imagine nowadays also, if you call the Uber driver as a driver, he gets offended. Even though he's doing that same profession. They say they call me by my name, not a driver. Huh? What is their position actually? They are driver, they are driving someone and are getting money for that. But here is the person who is known as Ananta Koti Brahmanda Nayaka. Yasmin, what was that shlok? Yasse Kanishvasita Kalamathavalambya. Just by his inhaling and exhaling, the whole universe creates and gets annihilated. That person is becoming a chariot driver for his dear devotees. And becoming a chariot driver is not that. Today it is actually more adorable because you are sitting in the posh car with AC, whatever the facility or comforts that the boss is getting, the same comforts the driver is getting. But those days, chariot driver means what? If chariot driver is driving the chariot in the battlefield, then he can't hear, there is so much of tumultuous noise. So what the person whom he is carrying, the warrior, what he used to do, how he can tell him that I want to go to left, how he will indicate that? Actually, that the warrior, he is to kick with his knee on the shoulder of the chariot driver. If he, with the left foot knee, if he kicks on the left shoulder, then that chariot driver has to go on the left. And that position was taken by whom? Can you imagine? Can we do that? No. So much of ego that we have. But Lord, because of his Bhakta Vassalata, he takes that position. Can you make your driver as your council chairman? Can you do that? If he gives also some good advice, then we give some weird look at him. Hey, अब ये मुझे पट्टी पढ़ाएगा, ये मुझे, he is going to tell me or what. But for Pandavas, they accepted him as the chairman of their councils. He became a chairman of councils for Yadus also. He was their servant and friend. Can you make your friend as a servant? No. Or can you make your servant as a friend? No. But he is ready to become that. He becomes servant for them also and he becomes friend for them also. Then further it says, sometimes he would take up a sword in his hand and guard their door at night like a doorkeeper. Not only for the Pandavas, he did it for Bali Maharaj also, from whom he everything snatched. But what gave him back? His own presence at his door. Whenever he wants to see Lord, he is at his doorstep, He can call him and Lord will come in front of him. Can you imagine? Even for a Brahma to hear his voice, he has to perform tapasya. The highest living entity in the human, in the material universe, if he can't have direct audience of the Lord. But Bali Maharaj, he got such a wonderful facility due to the mercy of Lord, that Lord is at his doorstep. So whenever he like, he can just go and see the Lord, which is impossible for great sages, Following behind them, paying and offering his obeisances, Sri Krishna showed his qualities of loving affection for his devotees in such a way that when Maharaj Parikshit heard all this in the form of songs from the mouths of the royal court bards, bhakti that was full of intense pangs of separation from the lotus feet of Sri Krishna awakened in his heart. So when all these things Maharaj Parikshit heard from his bhat, generally the people who come early in the morning to wake up the king, when they heard about Lord's wonderful qualities, then Maharaj Parikshit Maharaj was totally taken over by the pangs of separation from the Lord, because he started missing the Lord so much. My great grandfather, they got such a wonderful opportunity that Lord was with them each and every moment. And look at me. So he started comparing himself with them. And his heart filled with the separation of the Lord. Actually, same mood was explained by Akrurji also. In the 10th canto, 30th chapter, 22nd verse, it says that Natasya kasyid dayitas surottama nocha priyo dveshopekshayeva va tathapi bhaktan bhajate yatha tatha suradrumo yadvat upashrito arthadaha. Akrurji says, although no one is eligible to be Krishna's dear bosom friend, his undesirable enemy, or object of his neglect. Still, just as one attains whatever one prays for from a desired tree, in the same way one attains a particular fruit from Sri Krishna corresponding to one's bhajan. It's a very essential words that each and every practitioner of Krishna consciousness should understand. Generally, when we come to Krishna consciousness, we get attached to someone, one particular devotee, and something happens, and then we start finding faults with him. We start comparing that person with someone else. If you do that, that is also again an offense. Why? This verse explains. Because no one is dear to the Lord, no one is undesirable enemy for him, or no one he neglects actually. Then what? Then he gives a wonderful example. If you go to the desired tree and you ask for something, what do you ask the desired tree will give you? So same way, whatever way you want to establish your relationship with the Lord, that same way he reciprocates with you. What is that verse again? 4th chapter. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stateva bhajami. The way you want to reciprocate with the Lord, he will reciprocate with you. And that depends upon the bhajan, the sadhana that you do. If your sadhana is intense, with that same intensity you can realize the connection with the Lord. So it depends upon you, that how dear you want to the Lord. Then further, to illustrate this particular point, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, only those who take shelter of a kalpavriksha, desired tree, attains the benefit bestowed by it, not others. Who goes to desired tree and asks for, only he gets, not everyone. So same way, who goes to the Lord, prays for a particular thing, he gets that thing. So it depends upon you. What you ask for, you are going to get. So this is not partiality then. Just to illustrate that Lord is not partial, he has given this example. If you go to desired tree and ask for something, he gives that. Someone goes and someone asks something, he gets something different. So you get what you ask for. So then you will say that, oh, he is partial, that tree is partial. No, he is giving you what you ask for. So same with the Lord. Although there is a difference in result attained by those who take shelter of Bhagavan and those who do not, this cannot be considered partiality. Furthermore, the speciality of Bhagavan is even greater than that of the desired tree. For example, a desired tree never becomes subordinate to one who takes the shelter, but Bhagavan becomes subordinate to his unconditional surrender devotees. See, that's the glory of the Lord. He becomes subordinate to them. And Vrindavan pastimes are enough to understand this particular point. That how the Lord, Ananta Koti Brahmanda Nayaka, becomes subordinate to his own devotees. When Mother Yashoda scolds at him, he cries with the fear. And he gives pleasure to Mother that, oh, okay, my son is listening to me and he is afraid of me now. Now he will follow all my instruction. Can you imagine? Just by his desire, everything manifests. He is bothered about the desires of his own devotees. That's the glory. That's why these Vrindavan Leelas are so intimate and so much desirable by all the devotees throughout the universe and throughout the time. Actually, everyone is taking interest to hear about these stories because that mesmerize you, And then further he says, Bhagavan is impartial in all cases. This is illustrated by the following statements of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 17, text number 22 and 23. Natasya kashyed dayitaya pratipo न ज्ञाति बन्धुर्न परो न च स्वः समस्य सर्वत्र निर्जनस्य सुखे न रागा कुत एव रोषः. He is equally disposed to all living entities. No one is dear to him, nor does he dislikes anyone. He is detached, and therefore he has no affinity for the happiness derived from sense objects. Neither is he subject to aversion, which is simply the antithesis of sense gratification. In the course of bestowing the results of Jiva's own fruitive activities, he gives happiness to one and distress to another, bondage to one and liberation to another. Still, he never exhibits any partiality rising from attachment and aversion. तथापि तत्शक्ति विसर्ग येषान् सुखाय दुःखाय हिता अहिताय च. Although Bhagavan is original performer of activities, he is not personally responsible for the jiva's happiness, distress, bondage, and liberation. See, that is what the minute independence we have. It depends upon our karma that what we are going to get. It's not the Lord. Again, I'm repeating that Lord never interferes in your karma cycle as long as you are not surrendered to Him. Once you surrender, then karmani nirdhati kintu cha bhakti bhaja. Kintu cha bhakti bhaja. What is that cha bhakti bhaja? If you are anya abhilashita shunyam jnana karmadi, what is that? Nivrittam. Anukulena krishnanushilanam bhakti uttama. When you perform this uttama bhakti without any desire, then he interferes in your life. Then he takes charge of your life. He becomes the chariot driver of your life. Then further, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, by acting under the influence of three qualities of material nature, the living entity creates his own sinfulness and piety, which in turn becomes the cause of his birth and death. Although this is the function of Maya, it is understood to be the activity of Bhagavan. One should not imagine that Bhagavan is partial in this, because each individual living entity tests the results of his own activities. Although the light of the sun generally gives happiness to everyone, it gives distress to all, and the night lotus. Indira, the lotus that blossoms at night, actually for him sunlight is distress, because when the sun comes, it has to pack himself. And same with all. Whenever there is a sunlight, they can't come out. They can't see actually. So it is distress for them. But for others, the sunlight is most enlightening. Nevertheless, one cannot attribute partiality to the sun. Similarly, through the agency of Bhagavan's Maya, the jiva attains a particular result according to his karma. Thus, there is no question of a partiality in Bhagavan. The general rule is that Bhagavan bestows upon the jivas the fruit of their work. But although he is impartial in all cases, he shows his loving care to his devotees. This is not his personal partiality. It is well known as Bhagavan. It is well known that Bhagavan is Bhakta Vatsala, but he never becomes Jnani Vatsala or Yogi Vatsala. This has never happened. Moreover, he is also not affectionate to the devotees of demigods or demigoddesses. He is affectionate to his own devotees, Swa Bhakta Vatsala. And therefore in Brahma Sutra 2.136 it is stated, Upapadyate chapi upalabhyate cha. Bhagwan is Bhagwan's quality of a being Bhakta Vatsala is imbued with the partiality in the form of favoritism. The protection of his devotees is the function of his Swarupa Shakti. This partiality in favoritism to his devotee is found in the description of the qualities of Sri Hari. Moreover, Bhagwan's quality of favoring his devotee is the ornament among all his qualities. Bhakta Vasalta, that makes him Bhagwan actually. Bhakti, Bhakta and Bhagwan, it's like a triangle. If one angle is missing, you can't say it is complete. Bhagwan means there is a Bhakti and there is Bhaktas. When Bhakta means there is a Bhakti and there is a Bhagwan. So they are like interrelated. There is no existence for them without each other. So that's the relationship between Bhakta, Bhakti and Bhagwan. Thus, in his commentary on this verse from Sri Brahma Samhita, Sri Jiva Goswami Pad has presented another verse from Bhagavad Gita. Ananyasyantayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nityabhyoktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. In personally describing the speciality of his unalloyed devotees, Bhagavan said, my devotees consider me to be the exclusive goal of their lives. They are always absorbed in the thoughts of me with undivided attention. That is, they never take shelter of any other object of a desire to serve any other worshipable deity. Unlimitedly auspicious qualifications appear in them. Taking shelter of my lotus feet, which are the essence of the nectar of astonishing pastimes, they engage in bhajana with one-pointed determination. Such devotees do not even remember how to maintain their lives in this world. So I personally maintain them. This is what makes him to interfere in your life, because you are totally unaware of anything of this world. Then he says, okay, I will take care of your material life. And that's why it says, Vahamiham. Karomiham is not there. He says, Vahamiham. What is the difference between Karomi and Vahami? That has explained here. The purport of saying the word Vahami, that I personally carry, and not Karomi, that I arrange. Then this verse is that the responsibility for maintaining those unalloyed devotees falls upon me, and I carry that responsibility just as a householder personally maintains and nourishes the members of his own family. That makes him to interfere in our life. Bhagavan takes the responsibility of personally and directly taking care of his devotees by his own free will, whereas duties such as creation and so on are accomplished simply by his desiring them to take place. Therefore, his devotees are not really a burden for him. Just as a man feels happiness by taking care of a lover within whom he enjoys, similarly, Bhagavan feels happiness in supporting and nourishing his devotees. Actually, Baldev Vidyabhushan and Vishwa Chakravarti Thakur, while commenting on this particular verse, they said that if some lover is carrying his loved one, in his hands on the beach, does he get tired or he really enjoys that? That becomes the pleasure, that burden becomes the pleasure of his life. So there is a burden of waste and there is a burden of love. So to take care of devotees, that becomes the burden of love for the Lord, and he carries them. In this regard is an example from a Vedanta Sutra, Swaminaha Phalashruter iti Atreyaha. Does the detached devotee maintain his life in this world by his own efforts, or does he depends on the efforts of a Parameshvara? In answer to this question, it is stated that devotee does not want Bhagavan to have to do anything for him, so he makes some endeavor for his own maintenance. Although Bhagavan personally maintains his devotee, when Atreya Muni saw the final benediction, Falashruti, given to the readers of a Taittiriya Upanishad, he said, the worldly maintenance of the devotees is arranged by Sarveshwara Bhagavan. Just as a fish, turtles, and birds maintain their offsprings by sight, meditation, and touch respectively, similarly, Bhagavan maintains his devotees. My kindness upon such unalloyed devotees is that I make them attain my transcendental abode. I do not do this for the worshippers of the other devatas. Vishesham cha darshayati. This sutra indicates that Bhagavan causes those devotees who have no material desires and who are actually afflicted by the distress of separation from him to attain his abode very quickly because he is unable to tolerate any delay. This is Bhagavan's special arrangement. Reciprocally respondent, if you are feeling so much separation of him, the same degree he is feeling from you. So he arranges in such a way that you go quickly back to him. The following verse is found in the Varaha Puran. Nayami paramam sthanam nachiradi gatim vina garudaskandam aropya yatecham nanivarita. My devotees are indifferent to material circumstances. I lift them up unto the shoulders of Garuda, and bypassing all the intermediate realms, I bring them directly to my transcendental abode without any impediments, in accordance to with their desire. The most important word, in accordance to with their desire. So it depends upon you where you want to go. You want that Lord should come and take you personally, then there is a condition. What is that? 8.14. Remember this all verse always. Make it as a necklace of your throat. What he says there? Ananya cheta satatam yomam smarati nityashaha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yogina. For whom he is easily available? Ananya, without any deviation. Chetaha, without deviating his mind anywhere. Ananya cheta satatam, constantly. Yomam smarati nityasha, who remembers me always, each and every point. Teshaham sulabha, for them I am easy to attain. Nitya yukta yoginaha, who is always connected with me. Therefore, Bhagavan personally carries the necessities of his unalloyed devotees. This means that he does not arrange for them through any other agent. It is understood that this is no burden for him, rather it gives him great happiness due to his affection for his unalloyed devotees, who are exceedingly dear to him. Then further, it's said that the Supreme Controller sees with equal vision exactly in accordance with the previous activities of the conditioned souls. He bestows the inclination of particular karma at a later date without a slightest partiality. However, he is specially kind to his devotees. He totally inserenates their desires for fruitive activities, their ignorance and all the results of their sinful pious work. Although karma is beginningless, it is destructible. The karma of those who engage in work with the hope of enjoying the fruits of their activities is permanent. It is never destroyed. Even the duties of the renounced order, that is sannyas dharma, is one kind of a karma befitting that ashrama. Simply following the duties of renunciate is not pleasing to Sri Krishna because the desire for the fruit of liberation remains. Therefore, sannyasis also attain the result of their activities. Even if they reach the final limit of desirelessness, they certainly attain the insignificant result of the satisfaction in the self. And that's why Further, it says that on the other hand, pure devotees continuously render service to Sri Krishna with a favorable mood, abandoning without exception of independent endeavor, such as jnana and karma. For these pure devotees who are devoid of all desires except desire for service to Sri Krishna, completely incinerates their karma, the desire for karma, and the root of karma, namely ignorance. In the light of this general neutrality, Sri Krishna's partiality to his devotees is a matter of a sheer astonishment. So these are the things that we need to understand from this particular verse. First thing is that everything that ability, capabilities, capacities, powers, uniqueness that we have, that comes from the Lord. That does not mean that with that unique capacities, abilities, powers, if you commit sin, that sin is also performed by the Lord. Because Lord has given you powers. No. Then in the next verse, he says that it is your karma. Yastvindra Gopa Mathavendra. From the Indra Gopa up to the Indra, all they have bound by their swakarma, the activities that they have done in the previous life. Okay, then how long we can go on with the results of all these activities? Is there any solution? Is there any something that can burn out my karma? They said, yes, it is there. And what is that? Kintucha bhakti bhajam karmani niradahati. Niradahati means it totally burns out. What it burns out? The seed of karma is ignorance. The karma itself, the reactions of karma, everything is get burn out. When? If you perform devotion. So what kind of a devotion? Kintu cha bhakti bhaja. What is the cha? Cha means that devotion which is performed by the unalloyed devotees. So who are they? Like the Pandavas, Prahlad Maharaj, as explained here from the Taittiriya Upanishad, like Atrayas. If you perform that unalloyed devotion, then Lord interferes in your life. And Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, I take care of them. Vahamyaham, I personally carry that burden. And that he never feels that burden, but it is a love that he has for the Lord. And the unique quality that Lord has, that makes him really impartial. And that is Bhakta Vatsala. He is not a Gyani Vatsala, he is not a Karmi Vatsala, but he is a Bhakta Vatsala. So if you want to become a dear to the Lord, then you have to be his unalloyed devotee. That's what today's two verses, the text number 53 and 54. So any comment, any question? No.
So from you mentioned that Lord is responsible for everything comes from the good thing, but then you also actually explain nicely. But when we are talking about sins, they are because of our karma.
Swakarma. It's my own karma because of my ignorance, And then how that ignorance that has nicely explained in this purport, that because there is the dharma, dharmo the papa nitya shrutin stapansi. If you don't follow the dharma, you don't follow the shrutis, you don't follow the Vedas, then that causes you papa nitya. That causes you the sins. Abominable sins. As he says that, heinous sins. Mahapatakas. Even that Mahapatakas also get destroyed if you perform devotion. That's the glory. Performing devotion.
So we get into this cycle of birth and death, and then this 8.4 million different characters because of our karma.
Yeah.
Bad karma.
Yes.
But like
bad or good, whatever, it's a result of our karma.
they are not doing bad karma. They are doing we know that when the good karma will be over, then they know no more paying for they have to come.
Yeah.
But then they're not automatically welcome. So why do they get into the cycle of birth and death?
See, what happens? As Prabhupada explains, that the human form of life is a junction. From here, either you can go up or down. At the junction, the train goes up and down also. So here, the activities that you perform here, that gives you result. The activities that you perform both the places like Swarga and Patala, there you only destroy your credits, You won't create new karma there. That's the restriction of those births. Only a human birth, only amongst the 8.4 million species of life, only a human birth where you can create karma or where you can destroy the karma. You can get out of the reactions of karma. That's why Swargijete Loka, Ichitati Loka, Matyaloki Bhava Janmamsa. The demigods in the heavenly planets, they pray to their lordship, oh my lord, if there are some pious credits or balance, please give us birth on the earthly planets. Why? Because there very easily we can remember you. Because this is the place, this is called as the Tapoloka. This Bhuloka is called as the Tapoloka, where you can perform austerities and you can burn out your reactions of your karma. Demigods, 5th canto, 11th canto, prayers, demigods they are offering to their lordship. Please, Lord, give us a chance to take birth as a human being and perform devotion to you. Because here, actually, Lord comes personally and performs his pastimes. As Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, Jivera Karane Loinu Avatara Leela Koilo Savistara. Lord descends here and he performs this wonderful pastimes so that we can get attracted and we can get Ananya Cheta, we can unalloyed devotion. Without any deviation, we can think about him. That's the glory of human birth. We are so lucky. On top of that, especially this 28th Kali Yuga, Divya Yuga, that this Kali Yuga, we are so blessed because in the Dwapar, Lord Krishna came himself, not his incarnation, but Swayam Bhagavan, he came himself. After that, in the beginning of this age of Kali, just 500 years back, Lord Gauranga came and he has given the most magnanimous process through which we can go back to God. This is a rare chance. That's why Prabhupada used to say, make it as a last life. Don't perform pious activities that you can go to the heavenly planets and lose chance of this golden age. So perform an unalloyed devotion to the Lord. Just go back. He said this lifetime, no question of coming back. That's it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.